Hello, Amira Alvarez here, founder and CEO of The Unstoppable Woman. And today I want to talk about a personal and probably perfect example of turning thoughts into things. So I often talk about this, that the beginning of actualizing what you truly want in this world starts with an idea. It starts with a thought that becomes an idea that you hold in your imagination, and it turns into action that you take. It goes into feeling and comes out through action. And that's how we make manifest something that is just a thought, goes into the idea, goes into the emotional body, and then out into action. So how do you do that? And what does this look like? So a little while ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, if I had to articulate it, maybe it was 4 weeks. I think it was only 3 weeks ago. I think it was mid-April, actually. I got this download that I wanted to be working with more creatives. And I love working with small business owners. I love working with entrepreneurs. I love working with empire builders. And I also want to work with athletes and artists and creatives and musicians and actors and directors and producers. I got this really clear picture of expanding the clientele that I work with beyond people who are traditionally see themselves as being in business for themselves. So I got that download. It was an idea, and I have been continuing to play with it in my imagination. What would that look like? Who would I work with? How would I get there? Been having conversations with people. I have talked to my team about, okay, if we want to do this, what are the podcasts that I can get on that would relate to this? And so on and so forth. So lots of conversations with people that are in these other worlds that I'm just stepping into, and then talking to my team. So I took this idea, started to take that next level action. My team then finds some great podcasts for us to reach out to, which I did. And we got on a podcast called The Business of Music, which is a fantastic podcast. And I didn't know much about it before we started this, process, but had a great little email exchange with them, and they brought me on, and I just did the podcast interview today, and it was a great conversation. Really hit it off with the guy Bob Bender, who runs that podcast. And at the end, he turns off the recording and he says, what you're doing is fantastic, love it. My brain could only absorb so much of what you said, which is often true, that people need to hear things. Repetition is a mother skill. So you need to hear things over and over and over again for them to sink in and for you to really, truly get it. And he asked, would you be willing to do a little 1-minute mindset nugget for my audience that we can put into each of the podcasts? I think you have a really great message and it would really help people. And we talked about it a little bit more. And I said, sure, yes. Now, it turns out that they have an audience of 150,000 listeners. I didn't know that when I started. I didn't know that when I reached out to them. I didn't know anything about that. But I did know that I wanted to be working with more creatives. And that started as a thought that I held in my mind, started to imagine doing it, and then moved it into action. And in a matter of 2 weeks, I am now going to be on their podcast. If it works out, we're working out the fine tuning of it. Every time they do a podcast, I'm going to have a little bit of success consciousness teaching, a little 1-minute piece for their audience that's going to lead people to know who I am, which is fantastic. It's a win for everyone. So I immediately said yes. And then, and here's the rub, I hung up, figured out a few samples that I could give them, did that, recorded that very quickly. I love my setup. I'll show you guys. I got my little setup. It's super easy for me to do that. That was another idea that I held in my imagination that then my team helped me create. It totally worked. It makes it so much easier. Anyway, I banged out 4 samples and sent it to them. Hopefully this works out beautifully. But this is what I mean by taking a thought and turning it into a thing. And it happens very naturally, and you might not notice that process. So I wanted to give you an example of this happening. Now, if you want something new to happen in your life, hold that idea in your mind and imagine it. Think about what would need to happen. What would you need to do? What are the first steps? And start taking action on those quickly. So those are my little tips for you today. Hope you have a great one. Stay unstoppable and rock it out. Thanks for watching. Take care.